Okay, hi classmates. I have just a rough painting here to kind of help illustrate how I do waves, really springboarded by Scott's videos. He showed the scraping, and I was just so curious about the scraping method with a razor blade. I use I guess a typical boxed razor. Instead of like an X-Acto or a hobby knife. A few people have asked how I do this, so I do, instead of just holding it on a point, holding things flat, holding your razor flat. So I'm working on this small painting, and I have prepped myself how I like to do my waves, with dark lines here that you can see are dark, some Payne's gray pigment. And then I've got kind of a rough horizon here. It's not perfect, but it will work for the demonstration purposes. So what I'm going to cover is I'm going to do really what Scott has told us, like maybe a little extra step. I'm sure he knows about this, but something that I hadn't seen just yet, but I stumbled across. So I have my painting here. Now I want to add my crests, and I want to add the light, the scattered light, diffused light across, an uneven sea. So the first thing I do, just like what Scott did, and I'm standing to do this, make sure, absolutely essential, make sure your paper is dry. I stopped the video twice now because I felt like there was a cool spot, and cool spots are bad. That means it's wet, at least in this case. So if you have any kind of damp paper, I would just stop and give your paper a little rub down and make sure that it feels, at least room temp. It should not be cool. If it's cool at all, you've got moisture somewhere, so hit it with the dryer again. And then just real simple, just like Scott would do, I take the first thing is to get this horizon defined. And we're scraping up just the very top layer of our paper to give it that effect of shimmering water. So we have the first attempt here at getting some kind of horizon, some kind of effect of sunlight. Done. Very first thing. That's very much what Scott has instructed us to do, right? And thank you, Scott. I love it. This is so cool. Really having a razor in the arsenal instead of just the paints has really opened things up and allowed for experimentation, which I never would have thought using a razor to do painting. So thank you, Scott. So that defines our horizon, and that was all using the tip of the razor blade. I'm going to continue to use the tip, and now I'm moving down to my dark spots, or my dark lines, and I am going to do just the top of these dark areas that appear to be waves. That's what I painted them in there for, was to give the illusion of these waves. And I want to vary things. You can have thicker spots, you can have thinner spots, but really just scrape until you're happy and you get some variation. I'm just using the very tip, and the camera's going to shake a little bit. Again, sorry I don't have this perfect setup. But I've got one here coming down in front of another. But it's real simple. This is just a dark bit of Payne's gray. I took a brush with a fine point like this one, just some Payne's gray. After I put down my base layer, I had my yellow, and then I added in some Prussian blue. And then I hit a couple of spots a little heavier. I hit heavier here and then on the edges, and as you get closer, things tend to kind of not be quite as dark. So I'm really happy with what's going on here. But just adding a little bit of Prussian blue in there. Variation, they really change things up. I've got a distant wave back here. I'm gonna hit this harder over here. There's our really good white cap, our breaker. A little bit more work in here. And I'm trying not to overwork anything because I want it to still be believable. But now we're gonna hit the big one, right? Closest to the quote unquote camera, right? So now we are hitting that one. We're varying things. I'm gonna do a crest that's about to break over here in the middle. Oops. And you wanna have a little bubble up top. Nothing wrong with that. Coming. We'll soften it here. Once again, make sure that paper is dry. If you get into this process and things aren't dry, it becomes an absolute mess. And then let's go ahead and let's really define the edge of this. I want all that discoloration to go away. So we got one breaking here. And we're back to the paper. So we got our whitest white, which works well. This white and this white are essentially the same now. This is actually a little more dull because there's a wash over it. I'm going to hit this one up front, and then I will have completed an initial scratching part. So now we have at least the impression of some rolling waves in our foreground here. Again, not all waves are going to have a great big swell and a trough, but that is basic. So this one's got a little heavy. I could use some more dark paint under here, but I want to move on because now I want to go to, I've got these light rays coming out, and I want to go to the light fanning out down here too. So here's what's different, and I've kind of figured out by accident, I guess. Razor blade is flat on the paper, and you can angle it so you can get the right width. But now I'm going to just lay it flat, and I pull. There is paper and pigment. I'm pulling up paper and pigment to get that shimmer off the water, and it'll really start to come through. Sorry for the wobbly camera. That's what I got. What you try to avoid, try not to drag it over the dark areas. As you can see, I've lost a little bit in here, but I'm gonna try to avoid down here. And drag a flat razor across these lighter spots to give that appearance of that shimmer that we look for. You can start to see it come through. And if you need to, we can get some of it back here. We're going to put down a little more shimmer. So now we have our crests and our waves breaking. So we've got our dark, we've got our crests, we've got the foam on top, we've got our horizon, and now we have this diffused light that's hitting off the water and scattering across ripples or imperfections in the water, right? I'm gonna try, and I have not done this yet, but I'm gonna try and add back a little bit of pigment to where I scraped to restore a little bit of my painting here, the definition in the darker part of the wave here. And again, that's reinforcing that this is a breaking wave that is blocking the sunlight from behind it and allowing some of the sunlight in front of it to hit the water still. Watercolor, God bless, is forgiving. So I can go through here and I can add in a little bit of detail. I'm gonna get some furries from already having scraped here, but you know, it's okay. It'll, I don't want to say hide, but it does such a good job. Watercolor is really forgiving about giving, look at that nice edge that came through. It looks like a nice cresting, breaking wave. That's new to me. So there's always discoveries to be had, right? I love that. That's so cool. I just love that this paint does. You will get your lines, so be careful not to dig in too deep. But, you know, for doing something on the fly, there's a little discovery for you. I'm happy with that. That's pretty cool. It's interesting. Have a little bit of breaking that up. So there you go. That is how I do my waves, the crests, and then the shimmer as well with just doing the razor blade. As you notice, I know no white paint. If anybody was wondering if I was adjusting the light or anything like that, the exposure, hopefully I'm under these ugly kind of fluorescent LED bulbs that we have in our basement, and nothing else. So this is really just the white of the paper showing through in both instances with these waves and with scraping the paper off with the razor blade to get the desired effect. So I hope this is helpful, and by all means, if anybody has any tips, I'm always looking for tips. That's why I'm here. I'm here for Scott's classes. And I'm just so thrilled with what people are cranking out lately. It's so inspiring. If there's anybody that has not posted yet because you're intimidated, there is really literally no reason to be. If you post, you'll get a confidence boost. I guarantee it. There are all different levels in this group, and I really think Scott has nurtured this group to be supportive. I have never seen a negative comment. There are constructive comments, and they have never been in any kind of, you know, rude or inconsiderate way. So please, that's the only way we learn. We can all learn from each other. So please share your work. Make sure to share any kind of techniques that you guys can, and keep up the amazing painting. We're all here for it. So thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to let me know if there's any questions or anything else I can help with. I am thrilled to death to be doing this. Thanks, y'all. See ya.